Hello, welcome back. That was a faster turnaround. I am so excited to welcome our final session, session 3, these magnificent practitioners. This is Mastering Retention and Culture in a Remote Workforce. I'm happy to introduce Paul Tripp, Executive Coach at ASAP, and he is definitely a veteran in this area, in and out of many organizations. Paul, if you could just say a quick bit about yourself, and then each panelist will introduce themselves. With that, I hand it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Nayla. I really appreciate you affording us this opportunity. I look forward to a robust discussion. I, of course, can typically change my background, but today we're getting a green screen, so enjoy the beautiful view. I am Paul Tripp. I'm an executive coach with ASAP, and of course, today we're going to talk about how when companies transition from a work-to-home environment, how culture is affected. So with that, I'll ask Laurie, Mindy, and Philip to introduce yourself and I guess answer the question about, what are organizations, specifically yours, doing besides onboarding to engage work from home employees? So Philip, let's start with you. You're in my top right there.
Quick introduction. Phil Reese. I'm the talent acquisition director for technology for Chewy.com. And was instrumental in helping drive our launch of the Boston market. And been a great experience partnering with many of the panelists and others likely attending here today. In terms of engagement, I think onboarding is the obvious, but it's just the beginning, right? It's really, in terms of going from where we were a fully on-site culture to going overnight to being completely virtual, and having a focus in where I am in directing talent acquisition. It was really figuring out how we can continue to hire and continue to keep the interview teams engaged and trained to hire differently and trained to interview differently, and also trained to sell the opportunity and create an experience that allows potential candidates to trust that process and trust the opportunity to engage the brand and consider accepting an offer of employment without ever being on site, which was a massive, massive change for what we are generally accustomed to and has been evolving here since late February, early March. So many, many more things, but wanted to highlight one and give the others time to address that as well.
Yeah, Philip, you mentioned trust, and Mindy, I'm curious for you in your role. How does trust play a factor in the onboarding experience and even beyond that for your organization? So welcome.
Sure. So a little bit about me. So my name is Mindy Owens. I've been probably in the recruiting TA HR industry for probably about 20 plus years. Until recently, about March timeframe, I was in the role of a recruiter HR, and then moved over in March to be a program manager, really a lot of strategic and planning for enterprise digital. So that's anything that's consumer-facing based products, which is it's a horse of a different color when you end up hiring different people. And I really focus on hiring and onboarding, and I'm part of what's called the colleague experience office. So our office in general, our group is actually to be able to make sure the colleague experience is the best it can be. And that's from the conception of how we recruit to the point of how someone is there long-term. And we end up doing a lot of different things to be able to keep people active and keep people really engaged. Everything from, twice a week we have pretty much spirit days, which I kind of call them my pep rallies, and consider the engagement team sort of the cheerleaders for that. I've been told I have too much energy, and our chief digital officer for DOS doesn't let me near a coffee pot at all. So it is a lot of change to be able to try to get this culture then via video. I think some of the biggest changes that happen is most of us, I hate being on a video. Like, I think I looked really cute when I was younger, and as I get older and the gray hair happens, this is a really big step for me. And I can't be the only one who feels this way. Like, we joke around, one of our leaders said, "I'm so sorry, my camera doesn't work when my gray hair is showing," and we laugh, but that's some of the part of it is how we're doing all these is how to be able to get engaged, how to be able to use our cameras, how to be able to keep people active, how to keep people hiring. So I think it all revolves around each other regarding that. Everything that I do is trying to be able to fix problems as they happen. Would love to be more proactive, but I don't know if that helps answer some of your questions for that.
Yeah, it does. I heard you say that we're getting some feedback here, but really being more proactive and allowing it to be the best it can be for you onboard. And Laurie, as part of IDG, how do you do that? How do you take it beyond the onboarding stage?
Beyond the onboarding, sure. So first, my name is Laurie Butson, and I am the Global VP of Training and Development for IDG. And that means a lot of different things. I oversee what we do from a training and development perspective, but then also from an internal communications perspective and overall talent engagement. So a lot of different things fall under that. And I think, in terms of the engagement in the virtual world, I'll give you one specific example of something our company has been doing since really the week after we went into work from home, mode back in March. We introduced a concept and a program which we call Together Thursdays. And this is an opportunity. We have it every week, or over the summer, we went to every other week just to kind of give people a little bit of a break. But for the first several months, we had it every week, and it's open to all of our global employees to dial into. And we cover a different topic each week. It might be the very first week we did working remotely. So all of our colleagues were thrust into this new environment. So we did a session on work remotely. And since then, we've covered everything from motivation and how best to have virtual meetings to dealing with anxiety and overall wellness and well-being, to having our top leaders from the organization join us on the calls to answer questions from employees. So it really, runs the gamut. I think the underlying theme is the opportunity for people throughout the organization to feel connected and grounded with this weekly opportunity to, whether it's, connecting on a topic that they're really interested in and connecting with colleagues that they might not be seeing every day. It gives them that opportunity.
Yeah, Together Thursday. And Mindy, you mentioned something on Tuesday that you all do, right?
Actually, we do Wednesdays and Fridays, and that can be anything from if you could be a superhero, which superhero would it be? And you wouldn't believe how many people converse with each other. And we use this via Microsoft Teams. So that way we're not getting inundated with our emails. And that's very important to be able to make sure we're not taking away people's days. And we have something that's called topic non-work, items. And it could be something as a little bit more serious with Breast Cancer Awareness Month or Suicide Prevention Month or National Hispanic. So we do things in which it can be, what is your favorite season and what does that season mean for you? So it's a way for us to engage people and to be able to get people to talk back and forth. Because if we were sitting together, you may have people sort of standing up in the cubes and talking to one another. And that's some of the pieces that we have to be able to figure out. We're all remote, and we don't want us to feel like we're, pretty much on a raft in the middle of the ocean. So that's some of the things we do. But also, it's usually about every other week, Firdaus Bethina ends up having virtual hours. And that is an hour, usually from like 1 to 2. And Firdaus is the Chief Digital Officer for all CVS. And he is a dynamic, outgoing, enthusiastic leader, which really helps to be able to get people to feel like they can say anything to him. To questions of, when are we going back to the office? Which, by the way, I feel like we get every single week. We're like, to like, what is CVS doing now for schools that, all the kids are going back to college, and how can we be able to make sure our kids are safe? To what is CVS next action plan? So he may not be able to have all the answers, but it's an open place for people to discuss, to ask questions. And that area may also be able to get the leaders who are on those calls, as well as the 1,000+ people within our group, to be able to say, all right, these are some areas that are of interest to people, and that may be the next thing we want to do. So our group is very agile. So some of these conversations do help us figure out, what do we need to do best for the business? But also, there's some areas right now that are concerned for people. So what do we need to do to be able to make sure that we are addressing some of the emotional needs that we may hear about during those virtual calls? Hey, I can see there's some anxiety here. And we may need to be able to do something next and say, hey, by the way, we have places for you to go if you're feeling anxious with your kid screaming in the background, or, feeling right now that, do I want to send my kid back to school? So a lot of this helps with our community, but it helps to be able to figure out areas that we need to improve on, but also make people aware, like, we're all in this together and we feel you and empathize with you. Well, we have Firdaus and some of our leaders who are like literally the most energetic people you can be, making people feel like they're still part of something bigger, and no question is too small, and everybody has a voice.
Yeah, I'm really hearing that, Mindy and Laurie, you've given two really great examples, Monday, Thursday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, of how you're engaging employees differently beyond just the traditional check-in, cancer awareness, racism, whatever the topic is. People are really allowed to engage. And so, Philip, I wonder, what are you doing at Chewy with regards to that? There's Monday and Tuesday available here.
Monday we do some training. So for me and my specific teams, and I wouldn't say this is scaled to Chewy organizationally, and all team does it the same way. I think the one thing I love about the organization is, every team kind of has a subculture and every leader leads a different way. So the way that I've engaged the team that I manage, so Monday is actually a training that's interactive for everyone. So there's a topic discussed in advance. It's something that builds on each week. Where everyone's involved, whether it's, they're teaching it themselves or whether they're a participant or whether it's a feedback session. So it's very relevant to what we're trying to accomplish as a group, and an open forum for everyone to have their opinion heard, which I think is excellent. And the goal is to provide a lot of different perspectives on doing the same thing. So ideally everyone can gain a little bit of insight from their peers and really understand what works for them and how that leads to success. So that's more driven towards the job itself. Friday is the exact opposite. We actually feature a team member. So we offer them, as part of a team meeting, 30 minutes to feature themselves. So it can be just, a freestyle. It could be a PowerPoint. And it's about your life, your family, your friends, your, role models, whatever you want to discuss about yourself. And we understand everyone has a different comfort level. So we make sure to address that up front in terms of how they want the opportunity to go. But it's featuring yourself and then some Q&A. So we can remove ourselves from the grind and everything going on and be people. And it's in the middle of the day. So it's intended to just escape from work, be a person. And some have their children, featured, or, little babies waving in the background. And it's an opportunity to see the side of the employees that we may not get to see in the office, and to try to look at the silver lining of what remote work really means to an individual, and how the impact of all that's happened in this year is shaped behaviors and best practices, adjustments. But really just understanding, we see the person at work setting, but how did they get to that point? Why are they motivated the way they are? What's led them to be valued the way that they are? And it's been extremely insightful. And, you think so much about the individuals, and then these exercises happen. You're like, wait a minute, I had no idea. And it's something from a leadership perspective, I take clues on how to maybe manage differently, or what I understood that may allow me to think differently about someone's approach to something that, while it's not, a dive into a specific general area that we may focus on in a one-on-one, it just gives me insights that allow me to shape different opinions. And the team really responded well, and super engaging. But we try to mix it up where it's, a lot of different ways to engage, but it's not always so serious. And we have the opportunity to also try to enjoy it, knowing that we're a culture that's so driven by collaboration and interaction. So this investment was a massive one, and many of our employees have never worked remote. So that, was also something we wanted to take into consideration. So it wasn't a complete shock to the system, but something that allowed a level of comfort to be able to, adapt and also understand where others are struggling, so they can look at that other person and work through it together, and don't feel isolated, and don't feel alone. So it's been good thus far. We try to switch it up, and we've tried different things. Some have worked better than others, but those two are right now, formal touch points we have as a team to all get together each week.
Yeah, I'm really hearing some inspirational ideas that I've never heard before, and I coach for a living. So, this is great. Phil, I wonder, has anybody come on and sang? That's what I really want to know on their introduction on Friday.
So funny you ask. No, and I'll put a plug. Greg Owens, a team member of mine, actually released an album. And part of what he's done in quarantine is advanced his music interest and actually looking to pursue like getting signed as a musician. So he didn't do a rap for us, but we have been able to hear some of the music that he's produced, and the team's kind of rallied around that. And we do a song of the day. So he was actually one of our featured artists, and try to engage that way. So you will never hear me sing, just as out of respect to my team. But we have heard some interesting stories and definitely a lot of good laughs, but no performances live just yet. Excellent.
So, Laurie, I'm not going to ask you to sing, but I am going to ask you a serious question. Yesterday, Microsoft just announced forever work from home, and Google has introduced a hybrid model by which some can go back and you could work from home in June of next year. So I'm wondering what things need to be considered in a hybrid work from home model.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the question that I think, most organizations are considering right now. I know that is something that, we're thinking and talking about daily at IDG. And I think it's interesting because I don't know that there is a perfect answer. I know, it's something that we're talking a lot about. And, I think probably the most important thing is right now to just be as flexible as possible. I think, we're talking about it and looking at it from almost two vantage points. There's what we are doing in the pandemic and during the pandemic until we get to the other side of that, whenever that is. And I think that's one, avenue that you need to think about. And I think, we are remaining completely flexible globally through the pandemic. And then I think, what we're talking about too is post-pandemic. What do we want our future workplace and the future of work philosophy to look like post-pandemic? And I think it's really important to be thinking about it in both of those areas. It's hard to tell the future. And I think there's some key things that I think all organizations need to keep in mind. Employees, for the most part, and obviously this is generally speaking, employees for the most part have proven that, work from home can be done successfully. We have so many examples of that, not only, within my company, but then, externally as well. And we need to be really mindful of that. But then I think the other important thing for organizations as they're making decisions, the other important thing to keep in mind is balancing that flexibility and the employee's needs with the business needs, both in terms of the work that needs to be done, as well as the culture that you want to have. And how can you be thinking flexibly about that? I think most often we looked at it from a, how does the work get done? How do we build our culture in the office? And I think we're going to need to be thinking flexibly about that, not only in the office, but then also virtual, where, very likely most organizations are going to have a mix of people in the office and then doing hybrid on any given day. So how can you be thinking flexibly about that? Those are some of the things that we're thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, really hear you saying, the leadership team giving themselves permission to think both current state and future state in a flexible way. Mindee, what about you? What things need to be considered?
So for right now, we are still sort of looking to see what the future sort of brings to us. I do know the mindset is if, for right now, we want to be able to make sure everybody's health, both mentally, physically, and financially are being taken into effect. That's the biggest thing with us is, we really want to be able to make sure as a healthcare company that we want that for our consumers. We want that for us as well. Right now, we are all completely remote, 100%. Until we can actually figure out what CVS as a corporate company ends up saying, and then also really what our digital group does is, as we continue to want to be able to collaborate, if we can't be in a room together without a mask, what is the most worthwhile way to move forward? And then as things go forward, that's still up in the air because you see other companies around the Burlington area that have shut down until August. And you keep seeing that as like, hey, in August, we will regroup. Other things look into place as we are in sort of a bullpen environment. And if we can't be able to put people right next to each other, it's too early to be able to figure out. And as we continue to hire with enormous numbers, we've sort of, are getting to the point where we're outgrowing our space and we have to look at the next wave and how it happens. So it's kind of too early to be able to really give a definite answer. But the one thing we do take into consideration is we want everybody to be healthy. And that's so important to us. And right now, the anxiety of parents as a home teach is a big, huge factor. I do the onboarding sessions every other week, and I have people put their cameras on during this and they give their introduction, and you say, hold on one second, my 2-year-old is asking me a question, or my 8th grade first kid is asking me something with algebra. We joke around like anyone else on the screen can be able to help out right now. That's a huge anxiety-based component of what's going on. The other piece is financially. If daycares are closed, after school things are closed, when are those going to come back into play? That comes into this. And we have to be able to look at the bigger picture, which is why right now our sort of our crystal ball, or the black little ball that says the crazy 8 number is saying it's too early to tell. Unfortunately, right now, that's where we are at. But we are looking at people's opinions. We do surveys. We try to figure out what's going on. A lot of those virtual hours give us the indication of what steps we should probably be looking at. Some of my onboarding sessions, and when people ask those questions at the end, when I'm like, hey, does anyone have any questions? Hey, can you find out that? I'm like, I don't have the answer now. I'm not sure when we will, but I will do my best to make sure every single leader is aware these questions are needed. So
Excellent. So I hear more flexibility. Philip, what about Chewy? How are you all thinking about work from home, like a hybrid model, virtual?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I echo a lot of what they said. And I will say this, I think on the topic, everyone's trying to probably establish their point of view. And I actually caution the whole permanent work from home. I think it's premature. It's my personal opinion. But in terms of the point of view itself, I think what can't be lost, just to layer into what has already been said, is you need to hire against that point of view. You need to train and develop against that point of view. So regardless of where you land on the spectrum of remote versus not remote, you need to hire a workforce that's capable of operating within those constraints. And hiring, if you're remote, hire resources that manage to that setting, right? And set the workforce up for success. And if they aren't, and there's incumbents that don't have that capability previously, train and develop that to the future of where your workforce is going. And, to me, it all comes down to what are you trying to accomplish? If on-site's collaboration, but you can't collaborate, is it worthwhile? If, being remote is something that gives you a better, access to workforce and employees. Just make sure you know how to corral them together via time zones and compliance and other things, because it's a much deeper conversation and much more complex than just like they work from home or they don't, right? There's so many other cultural nuances, collaborative nuances, continuity nuances, retention, growth, development, you name it, that must be considered. So, I like that most companies are being diligent in how they're going about looking at it and looking at the wait and see. I think I likely speak for most that hope things go back to normal and we have the opportunity to choose at minimum of how to go about, being on site versus not. But to me, it's all about hiring, and that's the TA in me. It's hiring and training and developing around that strategy to be successful regardless of where you land in terms of your point of view.
Naila, before you take it over, I just want to summarize, what I'm really hearing is allowing yourself to be flexible and give yourself permission to weigh all the options and maybe not make a definitive decision right now, which hopefully for people listening, that's some permission, right? So 3 companies kind of saying the same thing. So Naila, thanks for the opportunity. Philip, Mindy, Laurie, thank you so much. Great conversation.
Great conversation.
Welcome.
I echo it too. Thank you so much for coming onto this program. And with that, that concludes the content portion of this talent acquisition workshop. I'm also going to ask to bring Mackenzie in, who's also my partner in crime here at Mass TLC. And he's going to explain a little bit about the networking. Also, I do understand that we do have somebody in the booth, in the expo booth from Ace Up, which is where Paul is from. They have so much great content and information to offer. So please stay and connect. Go ahead, Mackenzie.
Great. So Hopin has a great networking feature. On the left-hand side, you should see it says networking, looks like 2 hands shaking on the icon. So we invite you to go there and participate in the speed networking. So what will happen is you'll go to that room. You'll see a blue button pop up that says, "Are you ready?" When you hit that, you'll just connect your audio and your video there, and it will randomly match you up with other attendees that are here for a 5-minute conversation, up to 5 minutes. If you match with a colleague or someone you've already met, you can leave at any time earlier so you can move on to meet some new people. But you'll see when you're in those meeting rooms, you can either just leave or there's a button to hit connect before you leave. So if you're having a conversation with someone that, things are going well, someone you want to talk to after, make sure you both hit connect because it will share your information with each other and you'll be able to access that in your Hopin profile after. If for some reason you don't want to share that information, just hit leave and you can do that. Feel free to use the chat feature will remain open. If you think of a question that you'd like someone to address, you can use that. You can also click on an individual's name to send them a private message if you'd like. And we'll be here through the chat. So if anything comes up and you have questions with us, feel free to reach out directly. But we have this speed networking set up for 20 minutes at 5 minutes each, so you can go meet some new people. So thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed it and your patience as we work through these new tools in these virtual times. So thank you.
Thank you.